Did I just record like 3 minutes of a video and realize that I never hit record? Yes. Yes, I did. I feel like this video is going to be so chaotic, but it's okay because I feel like there's some strong points in there. Hopefully when I edit it, I can just kind of bring it all together. If not, I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the chaos that you are about to experience. So the focus of today's video is to talk about what you could be doing during your guided reading groups. So if you are a teacher or a soon-to-be teacher and you're confused about what guided reading is or what you're supposed to be doing, hopefully this video can help. Am I an expert? No, I'm not, but I have been teaching 10 years and I feel like I found some things that really benefit my students. It helps them grow year after year. For those of you that don't know, my name is Kira and I am a teacher here in Atlanta, Georgia. This is my 10th year teaching. I've taught first, I've taught pre-K, I've taught third, and I was an interventionist for grades kindergarten through third grade. But this is my second year teaching second grade. So I have 4 different groups and I am a center. So I have word work for reading, I have technology, I have seat work, which is the current standard, and then my back table. Every time a group comes back to me at my back table, I always have some type of warm-up. A lot of times it's a warm-up that they're familiar with because I've done it with them before, so they can kind of get started on it on their own while I'm making sure that all the other groups are taken care of and on track before I sit at the back table. I also go over my expectations pretty much every single day because students forget. So I let them know, like, don't interrupt me. You know who to ask if you have a question. If you need to use the restroom, you know what to do. Don't interrupt me unless it's an emergency. So I really have to repeat that pretty much on a daily basis because I want my students to remember. And I also do like teacher versus student, which you can see behind me. Those are what those tally marks are. And my kids are really big on that. And if they win on Friday, then we get to do Fun Friday, and that's something that they get excited for. So I'm like, okay, you know, if we can stay on task during center time, then you know, you guys will earn 5 points. So that also helps me as far as managing my small group time so that I'm not being interrupted at the back table. But again, every time a group comes to me, they're always doing some sort of warm-up activity that focuses on a skill that they need. So my llama group is my low group. These students are on kindergarten. They're non-readers, but they're getting there. And they are focusing on kindergarten skills. Some of the warm-up things that we do, like these are called iWords. These are by a company, I'm pretty sure the company is iWords. That's their website, iwords.com. I'll link them down below. But these are their sight words, and they have it to where they're decodable, and they even have the heart sounds that students need to memorize or know by heart. So I really love these. A lot of times we flip through these because we don't know our sight words. So this is pretty much the start of our center for this group, our guided group, every time I meet with them, and I only meet with each group once a week. Another activity that we do are like word ladders. This is actually a free resource that you can get in my free Google Drive, and I will link that in the description. This group has mastered letter sounds, so we've been focusing on segmenting and blending CVC words. But to start, because 3 sounds is very overwhelming to us in this group, so I give them the medial vowel sound and the final consonant sound, and they just go down and put it on their paper. So this is different, but they would put like AT, and we talk about at, and then I say, okay, what if we have, you know, at, and then we put a k at the beginning? What word does that become? And they'll write the C and say cat. Okay, and I'll go, well, what if we change the k to a b? And then they're like bat. So we just go through the word ladders and do different CVC words that they can sound out. And because our guided reading library, for the levels that these students are on, the books are very predictable, and it just requires the students to memorize the sentence stems or have them guess by looking at the picture. I want my students to actually apply the skill of segmenting and blending, like what they're learning, to their reading. So I usually just write like a decodable passage for them, and then we read it together. So this one is for next week. It focuses on short I, and before we even read, I have them go through, they go get crayons, and I have them go through and highlight the words with short I, and we talk about that sound. I have them highlight different sight words that are in here. And then once we go through all of these prompts on this side, then we start to read.
4. Yeah. I mean,
If you got all of them, yes.
Now we gotta lose yellow. Like the pen, I see Nan. Nan has a pen.
Once we finish this and read it a few times, we read it multiple times, I have them put it in their seat work drawer when we're done, because the following day when they have to do seat work, which is comprehension, they will be answering these questions along with a teacher that comes in here. He pushes in during my reading block, so he will do the back with them, and I'm so thankful for that. So I use this as our guided reading text, and then the back is for them to practice comprehension and writing. This is the type of text that we normally always use at the back table for my llama group. Next, we have our monkeys. This group is on first grade reading level. Again, like I said, we always start off with some sort of warm-up that focuses on a phonics skill that I know my students are struggling with based off of data. Everything I do over here is based off of data because this is second grade. So if they come in and see that we're doing CVC words or other things that might not seem age appropriate, I have my data to back me up. This group lately has been focusing on vowel teams. So we have this little task card box that has several activities inside that focuses on vowel teams. And wait, hold on. This is a phonics starter kit that I created. It's in my Teachers Pay Teacher store. I have like the font, I've created this like 6 or 7 years ago. Then I updated it 2 years ago, and then I also updated it this past summer. So this is a 2-year ago update. So a lot of these fonts don't look the same that I have. A lot of them don't look like that anymore. But this goes through letter identification, letter sounds, sight words, CVC words, blends, CVCE words, what else? Rhyming words, diphthongs. Like it goes through pretty much all of the phonics skills or foundational phonics skills. And whatever my students are working on, a lot of times I just pull out a task box and work with the activities within that. This took a lot of time to prep, but it's worth it because like I said, every week when I pull a passage, I see a lot of vowel team words in here, and I know that that's something that we need to work on. So I just come over to my little kit and I just pull out the vowel teams task box and set it in the drawer, and then I'm good for the week. Within this activity, there's like little reference cards. So we go through those at the beginning to just remind my students what vowel teams are. This is after I've introduced vowel teams during phonics. I also have introduced it to them at the back table. I do like a quick little mini lesson when I initially bring out a new skill, but we've been doing vowel teams for a few weeks now. So by the time they get to the table, a lot of times I have like these decodable words just like spread out on the table, and they're just reading them until I'm able to get back there and we can do an activity. And then another activity that we do are these little board games. This was for Halloween, so I need to change it out. But I have this resource where it has seasonal game boards for the whole year, and it also has different cards that go with it too that focus on various phonics and math skills. So because this group is working on vowel teams, I have decodable words, and I just slap them on the game board, and then we play a few rounds of this, and then we get into our text.
Air.
Air.
It was so easy. Why you move my leg? 1, 2, 3.
Some other things that we do, one-page games like this one focuses on AI and AY vowel teams. So this is just like a little board game that we play where students land on the word and read it. So just very simple, quick things that my students can do before we get into our text. This is our text for next week. I get a lot of these passages off of ReadWorks. It's a free website that gives you leveled passages. This was the one that we did last week. As you can see, every time that I introduce a passage, we always go through and look for words that focus on the skill that we're talking about, so vowel teams. In this passage, you can see different words that we highlighted with vowel teams. We also go through and highlight punctuation because my students love to skip over that. So I always make sure that we highlight punctuation. So when we're reading it and we're reading with expression, we're paying attention to those periods, those exclamation points. So we always highlight punctuation. And then you see some underlined things because these come with comprehension questions. And we go back into the passage and we find our answer and underline it.
Oh yeah, come on. Miss Cooper, what happened?
So this is what we did like the last 2 weeks. I keep a passage for like 2-3 weeks sometimes. We have a new passage starting next week, and like I said, it's blank now, but we're gonna go through and we're gonna find words with vowel teams. Sometimes I throw in grammar skills. Again, we highlight periods, all types of punctuation, commas, because I want my students to understand what that means when they're reading. After they're reading it quietly to themselves, I go around and I listen to each of them read and I make little notes. Not this week, but like next week, we'll go through the comprehension questions. So that's what this group is doing. My giraffes are grade level, so they are reading on 2nd grade level. And the skill that we've been focusing on is R controlled. So again, this is just a box that I take out of my kit, and it has different activities inside that we can do really quickly before we get into our text. What goes at the end of your sentence? Good job. We are still on this passage because we haven't answered the comprehension questions that it comes with. But again, we highlight our punctuation. We highlight words that we're focusing on, like they've highlighted vowel teams and complex vowels and R-controlled words. So that is what we've gone through and highlighted. We number our paragraphs. I like to choose these passages because one, for some reason, we have to test our students so much, but this allows them to practice going back in the passage and answering questions and finding information. I want my students to be able to manipulate like what's in their hand. Like they can't circle words in the books from the library, but they can, you know, circle, underline, highlight, do all of that with their passage. I do give them books sometimes too, like we switch in and out, but for the most part, I pretty much stick to passages. Alligators, you can't see them, but that is my high group. They are on 3rd/4th grade reading levels. So they too get a passage. Instead of phonics skills, we focus on some type of grammar skills. So we've been talking about plural nouns. So I just made this really quickly, and I just go through the passage and find different words that are either plural or singular. I found the plural version of the word presents, so they had to write the singular version. The word party is in paragraph 2. They had to write it in the plural version, so changing the Y to an I and adding ES. So they're just using the rules for plural nouns to complete like this little thing. So this was our warm-up. For my higher group, we don't focus on phonics skills because these students already have that strong phonics foundation. I always pull whatever grammar standard we're working on. So plural nouns, we've been talking about collective nouns, and now we're moving on to verbs. So those are some of the things that I'm going to, some of the focuses for our warm-ups. Okay, so major components of what my guided reading or small group looks like during reading time. I always set my expectations before I release my students to go to their groups because they forget, they get excited. I do let my students talk while they're working in centers, but if they aren't on task or I notice that they're not completing their work, then they're no longer able to chat with their friends. I always start with a warm-up. I just feel like it's so important. Just like any sport, you have a warm-up so you can warm up your body before you do like something intense like playing a game. So I feel like it's the same. We need the same thing when we're doing guided groups. We always have some type of warm-up to get our brain going before we dive into our actual reading. My warm-up is always data-driven. Whatever my students are struggling with, that is what we're working on. I love it because it allows me to kind of close those gaps where I'm not able to do it during my phonics my phonics lesson. Being able to do a warm-up that focuses on a specific skill for them is very beneficial to me. I also have my group at the back table for like 20 to 30 minutes, which I know some of you might be like, that's really long, but it's really not, because we do our warm-up for a while. It also allows me, when I'm introducing a new skill, I can do a small or a quick mini lesson on that phonics skill. So it also allows me to do that, and I feel like it makes up for me not being able to pull them every day. And then while we're reading, I always want to make sure that I'm focusing on a specific skill. I want to make sure that we're practicing fluency. I want to make sure that my kids are reading with expression and not reading like robots. So these are things that I always talk about before I have my students read. Sometimes, depending on how many times I've let them read the passage independently, sometimes we read it together where they're listening, I'm reading it with them so they can hear what it sounds like when they're reading. But for the first few times that my students are reading the passage, I'm just listening to them read quietly to themselves and go around the table. I'm trying to think of what else. I also love that we can practice those strategies of how we can get information from the text and how when we're answering questions, we can go back in the text to find those answers. Also with my higher groups especially, but even my low students, we talk about inferencing and how we can use context clues when we don't know different words. So that gives me a moment to teach those skills explicitly. Yes, I teach them during my whole group, but it also allows me to teach it in a small group setting during my guided reading groups. I really hope that I hit everything that I wanted to talk about. If you have any other questions about what I just talked about in this video, please don't hesitate to leave a comment below so that I can either make a video for that or answer it like right then and there. Again, I feel like when I'm editing, I'm gonna be like, how did I forget to talk about this? Hopefully that's not the case. Thank you so much for watching. I will be doing another video next. My next video that I'm going to be posting is talking about what my guided math groups look like and what I do during that time. So if you have any questions or things you want to see, you could also leave comments about that at the bottom. Again, for the 100th time, I pray that I shared everything that I wanted to share, because I'm about to leave and my phone is about to die. So yes, thank you for watching.